everyone. My name is Jasmin, and I'm a product manager here at Sentry, and I've been working at Sentry for the last 3 years. I've worked on a number of customer-facing products, including Session Replay and our user feedback widget, but today I'll be focusing on tracing and how you can find and resolve front-end issues that actually have back-end root causes. Before we get started, I'll give a quick introduction into Sentry. Sentry has always been focused on helping developers take action. As an APM/observability tool, we want to go beyond passively monitoring and observing events in your application, and we do that by actively helping you debug errors and performance issues. There are 3 key areas that we focus in on: contextualizing, prioritizing, and tracing. Let's dig into each one. First, we really need to understand the context around what's happening. What browser, operating system, or device triggered the event? What were all the things that happened leading up to the error, i.e. your repro steps? And also, what line of code triggered this error? You might be used to sifting through all of this data in a more traditional observability or monitoring tool, but Sentry contextualizes this data into more actionable insights that you can leverage to be able to prioritize and assign those issues across your entire organization. With respect to priority, there are a few things that you want to understand. For example, how many users are experiencing this issue? What types of users? Are they on your free or paid plans? Is the issue impacting revenue in any capacity? Is the entire app or website crashing? And you probably don't want every single developer to be alerted to every single issue in every one of your applications, so you can use the context that comes with the issue to decide which team or team member or Slack channel gets alerted to different types of issues, or alternatively, do you even want to be alerted whatsoever to this issue? Now, when the right people do get alerted to important issues and open Sentry to start resolving them, tracing is at the core of their debugging workflow. You can use the trace view to inspect every single event that led up to the issue across all your distributed apps and services, so you know exactly what went wrong, where, and why. You also don't need to spend a ton of time recreating locally. We most likely have all the information that you'll need to start working on a fix. Now, this might sound too good to be true, so let's jump straight into a demo so I can show you how Sentry is your debugging platform. So we'll be debugging this e-commerce site. It's, of course, built with Vue and Flask. It is very real. It's a store called Empower Plant, and as the name suggests, you can buy different things for your plants. So let's go ahead and browse some products. So let's see. Okay, well, that's weird. It seems like I'm clicking this Browse Products button and nothing is happening. There's no feedback on the screen. That's pretty annoying. However, I do notice that there is a floating Report a Bug widget, and I'm gonna go ahead and let the Empower Plant folks know that their button is broken. Okay, well, I'm still eager to buy some plant things. So I do notice that there is a top menu item called products. I'm gonna try that instead. Okay, it looks like something is happening. There is loading, but it's quite slow. Maybe it's my Wi-Fi, I'm not sure, but at least the product screen loaded. And right away, I can see that there is a mood ring for your plants. You're also able to give your plants a voice, and if I scroll down, I can see that there's even a plant stroller, and I think I'm gonna go with that one, because I would love if my plants could just walk up to me and let me know when they need some water, so I'm gonna add a few of those. I'm gonna give them a voice as well, and then I'm gonna go ahead and check out. It's a few, just a cool $600 to keep my plants alive, no big deal, and conveniently, all of my information is pre-filled. That's me, Jane Greenthumb. I'm gonna go ahead and submit And looks like I can't even check out, which is pretty disappointing. I guess there will be no plant strollers for me. Okay, so I'm gonna put my dev hat on and jump into Sentry to see what Sentry can tell me. So I already got this notification in Slack. It tells me I have a rage click and it's in production, and I can actually see the CSS selector that points to the element that was being rage clicked. It is our Browse Products button. So I get some useful info here in the Slack notification, but really I want to jump into the full Sentry view to learn more. So this is Sentry. This is our issues view. Immediately, we have some useful insights at the top of the screen. We know that this has happened 27 individual times across 4 unique users. We can also see some event highlights, so I know that this has happened in production. I know that it's my homepage. I know that it was a Chrome browser. And if I watch the replay, I can see that the user was definitely rage-clicking on that button. And I want to learn more about this user session, so I'm going to click to see the full replay. So if you're not familiar with session replay, it is a video-like reproduction of what was happening on your user's device when the issue occurred. It is not a genuine video recording, but rather it is a recording of the DOM state. Now, one thing I want to note here is all of the asterisks, stars that you see in the replay video. By default, we mask all text and images, so this ensures that any personally identifiable information or sensitive information does not leave the user's device. However, you can choose to specify what text or images you'd like to unmask if you know that there is no sensitive information. So that top menu item that said home and products, that's an example of something that you would unmask. And conveniently, if you hover over the configure replay in the top right, you can jump straight into the docs to figure out how to unmask text or unblock media. So if I continue to watch the rest of the session after the rage click, I can see that the user was so frustrated that they took the time to write out a feedback report. Users not being able to access my products page quickly is absolutely detrimental to my business, and if I were the user, I'd probably drop off and go to another plant store. But now with the help of Sentry, I have all the insight I need to really contextualize and prioritize this rage click. Now that I'm in the replay video, I can see that there are actually more errors happening in this user session, and that's made evident by the little red dots on the timeline. So I'm gonna look at the next set of issues. Looks like here we've identified some, and the user ended up getting to the products page another way, but I can see that it was super slow to load all the products, and Sentry actually identified a performance issue, a slow database query that appears to be rooted in an M+1 problem. And looking towards at the end of the replay, there is another group of issues. So here we see that the user is not able to check out and that there is a 500, which is pretty unfortunate. So this is giving exactly what happened in the user's browser, with all the other errors showing up across our entire stack, whether they are a code thrown exception or performance issue or UX issue like a rage click. And we can see all of this without having to recreate it locally. So there is a number of really helpful resources in these tabs, so I am going to dig in to understand more. In the breadcrumbs list, you'll see things like page loads, navigations, user clicks, as well as core web vitals for this user session. We also have what was happening in the console, and if I look at the network, there's my 500 highlighted in red. I also have all the errors that happened in this user session, but what I really want to do is dig into that trace and understand that checkout problem. Sentry insights are traceable across my entire stack, so after I debug this 500 error on checkout, I might go ahead and look into these database slowdowns, but for now, let's prioritize that 500 and jump back into the Sentry issues view. So immediately, it's apparent that this 500 is happening on my front-end Vue app, and it's also on Google Chrome. Sentry also gives me the exact line of code that triggered the issue, and we can see that it's a checkout request being made to the backend. So we know that the checkout isn't working, but we still don't know the exact cause. Luckily, Sentry can help with that. Related to my front-end checkout issue, I can actually see that there is a back-end unhandled exception for not enough inventory in my trace timeline. So I can continue debugging this checkout problem in my Flask project, and I also get the stack trace there as well, and I even get the suspect commit that might have introduced it. And remember, Sentry gives you visibility through all of your services, so we've identified that the root cause here is actually in my Flask backend. And I'm going to jump into the expanded trace view, and here I can see again my front-end 500, and I can even dig all the way down to the actual database query. So now I feel confident that I have all the context I need to debug this efficiently. So whether you're debugging errors, performance issues, or just a bad user experience, Sentry is your smart rubber ducky, helping you contextualize, prioritize, trace, and ultimately resolve issues faster and with more confidence. So let's recap some of our key debugging features. We all want to avoid our users going on social media and ranting about how broken our apps are, and we 100% need more information than a user tweeting, "This doesn't work for me." Our trace view helps you confidently find the root cause to your app issues regardless of where they show up across your system. And the best part is you can find traces throughout your application, so whether you're starting your debugging journey from a session replay or diving straight into an issue from a Slack alert, you'll be able to trace down to the root cause quickly. And with replays and user feedback, it's easier than ever to literally see what was happening on your user's machine without having to figure out how to recreate the issue locally. Now, developers can no longer just close an issue and say, well, it works on my machine, and the issues can be resolved faster. So now when your users report an issue, you have all the context Sentry provides to better understand what the user was experiencing, and you no longer need to go back and forth with the email to collect, back and forth with the user, I should say, and collect more detail. Aside from giving you all the necessary context, we also have AI features to help you fix things faster. And what kind of tech company would we be if I didn't try to sneak AI somewhere in this talk? Our auto-fix suggestions will suggest fixes for your errors from inside our issues page. So if I didn't know how to fix that inventory issue or just wanted a starting point, Sentry AI Autofix will look at the issue and automatically open a PR to solve it. We also have AI issue summaries. If you'd like to learn more about our AI ML features, we recently published a blog post just yesterday that talks about all the new ones we have, and you can check it out here. Lastly, setting up is quick and easy for all of our SDKs. Here is how you would enable errors, tracing, and session replay with just a few lines of code for Vue. You add the Sentry SDK and initialize the SDK as early as possible in your app. Sentry offers many plans from our free developer tier to enterprise plans, so whatever the size of your team or code base, Sentry can grow with you. I also highly recommend that you check out our launch week videos. They're going live on YouTube this week, Monday through Thursday. We've been focusing a lot on authentic developer challenges and how you would solve them. You could also try Sentry for 3 months free by scanning this QR code and typing in that promo code in yellow. And don't forget, we are fair source, so you can join the discussion on GitHub and Discord. We're always eager to hear your feedback, especially someone like myself as a PM. With that, I want to thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to open the floor to any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmin. I already saw a hand come up, so I'm coming.
Thank you so much. It's a great demonstration. I have a quick question about how Sentry can find the bug. For example, in your demo, the first one is you click a button and there is no response. And if there the error or the exception is not being catched, how does Sentry know the button is not working properly?
So I can speak to our rage click logic. Hopefully that will answer the question. So essentially, we basically came up with our own definition internally for what a rage click is, and I think that is 5 or more clicks in a very short time period, and there has to be no visual change to the page. And we render that a rage click because our expectation is that something will happen. And then we make sure we try to catch scenarios where we know it's not a rage click. For example, if a button opens a link in a new tab, we try to make sure we don't catch scenarios like that, because then that would be a false positive for the rage click. But we've essentially created our own logic to identify that.
Thanks for the demo. I was just wondering, is there any configuration that's required to connect the backend and the front end so that the issues are like connected to each other?
Yes, you do need to set up our tracing. So more details will be on our documentation, but there is additional setup required.
Great. Any other questions?
Hi. So for a session to be recorded, there will be some kind of a tracing code in place for each session. Essentially, on the client side, you would have to have some kind of a cookie or local storage, something that is storing the session. So in that case, that's the only way, I guess, or maybe something else that I'm not aware. So if that's the case, then when there are compliance consent pop-ups that should come up in each website, especially for finance firms. If the user says no, do we disable Sentry? Does it change across countries? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
So we actually don't use session storage, and the way that our session replay product works is you actually can't see a video across different tabs. So if the user is browsing across multiple tabs, we don't capture that in a single replay. Those would be independent replays. So we don't use session storage today.
But then you would need to have some kind of a storage on the client to uniquely identify each session. Will that be compliant if the user says no for the compliance pop-up?
So unfortunately, I don't know all the details of that, but I recommend that you ask us on Discord, and then we can have the engineers fill in the gaps for exactly how that is instrumented.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions for Jasmin? Okay, I have one that is slightly off topic, but it is, are plant strollers a real thing?
Is it a real thing?
Is it a real thing?
It's very much real on a power plant. You can buy one. I think it might just be like a cool 125 probably.
Okay, because I feel like I have too many plants, but I'm also horrible at watering them, so they would just be following me around constantly, like getting in the way of the dog and everything. But one more serious question I had was, so I've seen where you can, the error that comes in can, you get that 500 error, but then actually getting to the root cause can dig and dig and dig. And so I assume that's where you're going with AI. But yeah, just curious if you can tell us more about what do you envision the future of being able to debug effectively look like as you introduce more AI features?
I mean, I think right now Sentry does a really great job of pointing you really quickly to the root cause of a problem or giving you all the context you need to resolve it. I think the next step, which we've done a little bit with our AI autofix feature, is really going the next mile and providing a solution. So like initially we had a feature that would, I think, use AI to give you a recommended solution, and now we've gone one step further and we'll actually open a PR with like suggested code changes. So I think that's ultimately the future. Anytime I ever describe what Sentry does to somebody else, they're like, so can you fix the issues for them? And I was like, wow, that's incredibly complicated and it requires so much knowledge of our customer's application. But I think that would really be the next big step.
So right now it's more of a suggestion, but maybe eventually like getting into
Exactly.
the code itself.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, everyone, give it up for Jasmin. Thank you very much, Jasmin.
Thank you.